Hello, folks. It's Kai here. I wanted to share an exciting new group that's forming. It's called TransHub, and we're going to be meeting on a monthly basis at the end of the month. So the first one will be January 31st in the evening, Pacific Standard Time. And it's basically for anybody that identifies as trans, non-binary, and/or gender diverse. And we're wanting to explore workplace situations, especially the ones that are what I'm calling micro challenges. So those are the ones that are smaller in nature, but that build over time, right? And create frustration, exhaustion, like not knowing what to do. And so I thought it'd be really good for us to come together to talk about those issues and really to explore stressful beliefs and figure out ways to unpack them and reassemble them so that we can have more of an empowered approach to those workplace settings. So I just wanted to share a little bit of a process of what we'll be doing with TransHub so that you have some idea of what to expect if you come and join us. And there's a link in the description with where to register for this. So I do encourage you to register just so that one, we know who's coming. Two, I'm asking people to share what their stressful beliefs are at work or their stressful situations. And so here I have a bit of a PowerPoint that I put together to basically show and share a little bit more of the process. And so, yeah, I'll just walk you through it very briefly here. And the first thing is we're going to be looking at stressful thoughts when it comes to these micro challenges that we encounter at work. And of course, when we have those types of stressful encounters or situations, there's all kinds of really challenging things that come about. And none of these, I'm sure, are a mystery or unfamiliar to you. Certainly, I've had my share in the work experiences that I've encountered because I'm trans. And so we feel unsafe, we feel uncertain, we don't know what to do, we feel like we're stuck or debilitated. And so a lot of these are difficult emotions that we carry around with ourselves. And when we do a process such as the one that I'm going to describe next, there's a lot of really great benefit that comes from it. Some of them is that we can be a lot more strategic about what we do and we don't do, and we can be informed about what our options are. Also is that we have a lot more freedom as to do what we need to do without hesitation or second guessing ourselves. Also, a kind of a surprising spin-off benefit is that we have a lot more compassion towards ourselves and towards other people as part of this process. And that's just that much more valuable for us, and that it helps us to kind of relax into the situation. My favorite is that we have way more options available than might appear at first glance. And so really what this process is about is kind of surfacing those options that are available or that we might not be able to see. Because like if you're anything like me, when I'm in a stressful situation, sometimes my options boil down just to two. I'm like this or that, and that's it. And it's actually once you pause and relax and look, you open up the view to that much more. And surprisingly, also, there can be a bit of levity that comes as a part of this process, even if it's a challenging situation. And so this is just kind of eases that burden that we often carry around, and it can make it fun. And so these are some of the benefits that come from this process. So what does the process actually entail? Well, there's two parts to it. The first part is when we're looking at a stressful belief, and I'll provide an example in the slides to come, is basically we ask three questions. The first one is it true? And that might be a surprising question to ask because it feels very real, and it is real what we're experiencing. But certainly we might not have had an opportunity to take a second look. And this is basically almost a meditative question to pause, reflect, see if there are any details that we missed. And sometimes there's some surprising, responses that come from this question and just the opportunity to ask it. The second question is, how do I react when I think the thought, the stressful belief? And oftentimes it's very easy to recognize the physiological as well as the emotional reactions to things that we encounter in the workplace, and just looking at what those are in more detail. Then the third question is, who would we be without the thought, the stressful belief? And this is sometimes a bit difficult at first to be like, what does that actually mean? How do I do that? But I'll provide some examples of that in terms of how it kind of opens up things. Then the second part is actually expanding the possibilities, and this is exploring alternatives. And we do that by taking the statement and flipping it in different ways, in different directions. One of those directions is towards oneself, just to see if there's not anything that we missed. Towards the opposite, so the statement and then flipping it towards the opposite of it. And then the last one, in some situations, it's towards the other if there's somebody else involved and you're flipping it around towards them. So I thought I'd share one example, and I do use this method with cisgender people in a workshop setting, and it actually is very powerful to help them shift out of their stressful beliefs and thoughts about transgender people. And when they do this, they become a lot more excited, relaxed, and they're just able to learn that much more. And so I thought I'd share what the very common stressful belief is among cisgender people. And that is that my mistakes will hurt trans people. So that's the statement or the belief that we're working with, or the thought that is stressing them out. And usually it's kind of moderate to very stressful. And so we apply these questions and the turnarounds to help them to ease into a more agile way of being. So just as an example of with that statement, is it true? Oftentimes people again have that opportunity, that chance to pause, slow down, look at it. And what they sometimes surprisingly come up with is that, oh, wait a second, I actually made a mistake with a trans person and they weren't upset, right? And so they start to realize maybe it's not always the case that I will always hurt a trans person. Certainly there's definitely potential for them to hurt trans people, but it might not always be the case, right? So this just cracks the door ever so slightly. Then we ask the question, how do I react when I think the thought, my mistakes will hurt trans people? And people are very stressed. They avoid trans people. They are distracted. They're anxious. There's a whole list of things that they experience when they think that thought. And then who would they be without the thought? Oftentimes this takes a few seconds for them to think of what that would look like. But basically they realize they would be a lot more relaxed. They would be very present with trans people, looking at the exact situation and not worrying about things that might happen. It's really just about who is in front of them and responding to that person's needs. A whole variety of other things that they kind of start to realize about a situation or about trans people and their interactions with them. So that's when we shift to the turnarounds. So we're using the statement, my mistakes will hurt trans people, and then flipping it around in different directions. The first one is to themselves. So this is to the cisgender people. And when you flip it around, it's my mistakes will hurt me. And sometimes people are really quite taken aback by that. They don't realize, oh, am I also hurt in this? I didn't realize that. And when they explore it, they realize, oh, my perfectionistic tendencies, thinking that I will 100% know it right off the bat, is actually preventing me from learning and connecting with trans people. So they're more worried about making mistakes than they are about interacting with the person that's in front of them. And then also not able to continue to their growth and learning. Just as some examples, right? There's much more, but basically all these statements, these turnaround statements, we're trying on for size to see if they fit, and if they fit, providing examples. Another turnaround is to the opposite. So my mistakes will not hurt trans people. Again, people are kind of like, what? And that speaks to trans people not being this monolithic set of people. We're quite diverse, and some people might be hurt, some people might not. Some people are distracted with other things, and for some, just it's not that big of a deal. It really depends on where somebody is in terms of what kind of impact it will have. And so recognizing that diversity helps lower the anxiety that typically a lot of cisgender people have in regard to trans people, and allows them to be present with somebody to to take the necessary steps and notice if there's been hurt, not just responding from thinking that there was a mistake made, and that, really being present. So these are some of the examples in these turnarounds. The last one is my mistakes will help trans people. And this is usually also very difficult for people to think of examples at first, because they're so kind of stuck in all of their mistakes, hurting all of trans people. And what they realize is, in kind of exploring this further, is that actually mistakes are an important part of the learning process, and that it actually might, in certain settings, especially if they apologize and make a correction and don't overdo it, it actually can bring people closer together, right? And kind of forge a bond through that learning process. And so they're not quite as rigid in their thinking about their mistakes, that it's actually an opportunity. It really isn't so much about the mistake, it's how they respond to the mistakes that's important, right? And so all of these kind of moments of where they crack open the door and expand their view help them to be more relaxed, more approachable, lean into the experience with trans people. And so this just becomes such a powerful way for them to kind of move to the next level, essentially. And so this approach is not just for cisgender people. There's all kinds of issues that trans, gender diverse, and two-spirit folks face, and that's where I just really excited about using this process and this technique to explore ways to help empower us in workplace situations that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So I welcome you and invite you to join us coming up this Sunday, January 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is the first time we'll be trying this out together. And then certainly, of course, the months to come, we'll continue to do that. And so please register so that we can know you're coming, as well as what your stressful thoughts are currently. And we'll, bring all the different thoughts together, see where they're overlapping, and then bring that to the session to come. So thanks for listening. Feel free to, email me with any questions. You can email me at info@transfocus.ca, and we'll be happy to respond to you and just to clarify anything you need. But otherwise, we look forward to working with you on solutions to the common challenges that trans people face in the workplace. Thanks for now. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.